Do you suffer from soggy bottom? Or are you flakier than you thought? Well, either way, we're going to solve these issues today as easy as 1, 2, 3, because it's the mealy, the flaky, and pie dough 1, 2, 3 today on the Carefree Cooks Code. I'm Chef Todd Moore, and this is the Carefree Cooks Code, every Tuesday live at noon Eastern. Here's our challenge. How can home cooks cook freely with creativity, confidence, and pride while ignoring recipes and still impressing themselves and others with what they cook? Well, the answer is found in becoming empowered with how cooking works, using dependable and repeatable methods of cooking that work for any ingredient, for any diet, and any desire, just like chefs do. And we'll know we've cracked it when everyone sees cooking as an exciting and rewarding way to improve their relationships, their lifestyles, and their health through better food and cooking. This is the Carefree Cooks Code. Hey, welcome back to the Carefree Cooks Code, everyone. This is the free public weekly show for the methods, the techniques, and the insights into better food and cooking. I don't cook anything here, but you know what? I am a carefree cook because I create my own recipes. I bring friends and family together. I learn every time I cook. I create my own cooking style because I practice pro methods and I wind up loving my cooking. And if you love to progress your cooking and want to get a reminder of when I'll be live, go to webcookingclasses.com/live. Oh, and here's our schedule for the week. Boy, exciting things. Tuesday at noon, like I said, Carefree Cooks Code. That's the reason that we're here together now. Tomorrow at noon is the first class of the 4th series of deep dive classes for Carefree Cooks Insider Cooking Club members. This series this month, all about seafood, but you got to be an insider to go. So anyway, but the big monthly event that you can go to is this coming Saturday at noon Eastern. It's our 5th lab class, Learn, Act, Become class on Zoom. And this time we're going to be focusing on making all your baking absolutely perfect. And I'll tell you about it a little bit later. Next, I've got what am I for you today on topic. This is an antique piece of kitchen furniture. Might your grandparents have had one? What's it called? Tell me in the comments section below, what's this antique piece of kitchen furniture? Okay, this is what makes this so timely and so exciting, because new fruit is coming to your farmer's market. New fruit season. I mean, with all due respect to my friends in Australia, and I know that there is another side of the globe and people everywhere, but for me, I'm excited because of my new fruit coming to the farmer's market, and it means summer pie season is soon. And I don't really make pies that much. Thanksgiving, I'll make a pie, but summertime for fruit, for some reason, I love all that fruit. And I mean, geez, you can fill a pie shell with absolutely anything you want. But if you use the wrong kind of pie dough, you might just wind up with a soggy mess at the bottom. So we're going to talk about the ins and outs of pie dough today, and a formula that you're never going to forget that makes it as easy as 1, 2, 3. Now, let's give some respect to the pie, because in the early American frontier, that's what they ate. It was not uncommon for the pioneers to make 21 pies for the week, one for every meal. Because pies were so important early on in the summer when you had the fruit, but in the winter when the fruits were unavailable, you would have to bake pies out of whatever was available. Potatoes, sweet potato pie, meat pies, root vegetable pies, rhubarb. Who thought of rhubarb, Vinegar is added, dry crackers are added, and this was another way to store food or to put it into a usable form for long travels. It was the early McDonald's is a frontier pie because it was really hard to keep ground meat in your pocket, So it's folded into a dough. And I know the idea of eating pie at every single meal might appeal to some people, but it's not something I'm going to do. And again, so uniquely American, the pie and the pie eating contest. Yeah, I don't like food consumption contests, but that's another day. Nonetheless, pies, still a favorite American dessert. And it's an English invention that was planted in the colonies and just grew like a weed all over the United States. And now there are endless varieties of pies, and there are very few rules that you even have to follow for making a pie. So let's agree on one thing up front. Let's add a definition to it. A pie is composed of a sweet or savory filling baked in a crust or poured into a pre-baked crust. All right, so I'm going to give you a lot of different characteristics today, a lot of different combinations that are probably going to give you some good ideas or give you an aha moment today to say, oh, I never thought I could do that thing that way. That's what I'm bringing you today. So open face pie, lattice crust pie, full top crust pie. It's usually round, right? Not too many people make square pies. Slope sided pan versus a tart, and you eat a pie in a wedge. You don't usually eat square pie, right? All right, so let's get right to it. Chef Todd, give me the punchline up front. And I'm going to give you the end of this at the very beginning. So get ready with your screenshots because I'm about to give you the formula for every pie dough you ever wanted to make. And here where I live, that would include crab and further south, crawfish pie. And the same formula makes a flaky pie dough. The very same one makes mealy pie doughs without changing a single ingredient or any of the measurements. How do you make two different pie doughs out of the same ingredients, the same measurements? I'll explain about flaky and mealy in a minute. So here it is. It's pie dough 1, 2, 3. Easy formula to remember, no? Do you ever in your life need a recipe for a pie dough? No. Pie dough 1, 2, 3. 1 part cold water, 2 parts cold fat, 3 parts cold flour, little pinch of salt in there to give it some depth. All right, so let me put that in real world terms for you to use, those that haven't taken algebra in a long time like me. If you would use 1 cup of cold water, then you use 2 cups of cold fat and 3 cups of flour, right? There you go. You could, let's call it 8 ounces of cold water, liquid, fluid, 16 ounces of cold fat, 24 ounces of flour, okay? It works like for any amount. I mean, heck, if you lived on the planet Zircon, where the measurement is called a zuplik with an X, you spell it right, you would use 10 zupliks of water, 20 zupliks of fat, 30 zupliks of flour, and that's even if they have water on Zircon. I don't know. But pie dough 1, 2, 3 can be used for any amount of pie dough that you want. And as I said, this same formula makes the 2 types of pie dough, mealy and flaky. And the only difference between being mealy or being a little flaky is the size of the fat. And what makes a dough mealy versus flaky is really just the amount of time that you spend mixing it. So this is the idea. Larger pieces of fat in your pie dough melt away and they leave gaps. That gives you your flaky dough. Very simple explanation behind it. Continue mixing and smaller pieces of fat leave smaller holes or no holes at all because they're absorbed by the flour, the moisture in the flour, and it makes a much more dense product. I've done this. You've seen me do this. A year or 2 ago live, I made biscuits for the first time in at least a decade, and I so overmixed them that they came out like dense scones. I redid the video and just did it really quickly, pulse, and had these wonderful flaky. All right, so that's the idea. Flaky versus mealy. Use the right one in the right way. Flaky crusts are always good as a top crust because they absorb more moisture. You wouldn't use it as a bottom crust. That's how you get your soggy bottom. The mealy is best as a bottom crust because it retains so much moisture, okay? Let me roll that back so you get the concept. Mealy dough, smaller fat, melts away, absorbs by the flour. So then when you pour a liquid in there, the flour's choked, let's just say. Flour's like, oh, enough liquid. I've had enough for today, right? So that's why it resists. But the flaky is better for drier fillings. The mealy is better for wetter fillings. So if you really want to make that pie pop and you don't want it soggy, you don't want it really hard to get out of the pie pan and falling all apart, these are the adjustments that you make. And it means if you're making a really juicy fruit filling, and you use a flaky crust, you get the soggy bottom pie. Make a really nice pie and overmix the crust and put it on top. You've got a chewy, dense crust on the top of your pie. That's not good either. So mix that pie dough 1, 2, 3, just a little bit longer, and you have a more dense bottom that's not going to get soggy. But look, that's not the only way to make a pie dough. All right, let me give you a few more ideas if you want to get a little fancier, if you want to get a little French. All right, we get some French together. So that basic pie dough 1, 2, 3 that I just talked about, very basic pie dough, the French call that pâté brisé. Okay, so your pies immediately have gotten better just by knowing that. If you French up your pie, you go around using fancy words and tell people that you used a pâté brisé for your pie crust. Oh, it's very good. Yes, thank you. I used pâté brisé. There it is. It's already better than basic pie dough. But look, if you add some sugar, some eggs, you get a much firmer dough, much more sturdy because of the egg yolks. And this is pâté sucré, most often used for tarts because they're baked in a straight-sided pan versus a sloped-sided pan, like a pie. So if you have a pie dough that's always the side crust is always falling off, maybe a little bit more egg for structure. I saw a comment beforehand, a question about how do I make a sturdier dough? Eggs and sugar make a sturdier dough. But the pâté sucré is a much more tender dough because, and you already know this if you have been paying attention for the past 2 or 3 weeks or so, because I talk about this again and again. The fat coats the flour. That inhibits gelatinization of starches, which means that you get less gluten formed during mixing, giving you a more tender dough. Fat is a tenderizer, right? So if you want to make pastries, if you want to make donuts, you may not want something like that, but you want a baked good that's like hollow in the middle that you can fill with something. Well, you need a Claire paste. You need pâte choux is what it's called, or choux paste, we often call it. This has even more egg yolks now, adding fat, adding protein, and it turned into an éclair paste, which then with added moisture, now more egg, more moisture, leavens more quickly, leaving that hollow middle for your filling. Next thing you can do if you really want to get fancy and spend an afternoon, you can go for the full book folding and rolling technique needed for puff pastry dough, or what's called pâté fouetté. The puff pastry puffs because butter is folded into the dough. It creates layers and then it's baked at a high temperature. So you literally mix a dough, put a pound of butter, fold it over, roll it flat, fold it over, roll it flat, and you get like 1,000 layers of butter. Not easy. Okay, not easy to do, but fun if you're into baking. If you want something easy to do, I'll tell you the easiest thing to do. It's a truly American invention that the French don't even, I think, bother having a name for. It's your basic crumb crust, right? Grind up anything from graham cracker crumbs to Captain Crunch cereal, grind it up and moisten it with some melted butter, press it into the bottom of the pan. And this is actually a very good thing because when we talk about mealy and flaky and resisting moisture or absorbing moisture, crumb crusts are really good at resisting moisture. They're so dry and crackly, right? So great used in an unbaked pie, a pie with a cream filling, or something that can be baked with the wet filling, like a cheesecake. Like, think how often a cheesecake uses a crumb crust. That has to do with the tremendous amount of moisture in the cheesecake. Okay, so now once you've decided how French you're going to get with your pie dough, it's time to think about what you're going to fill it with. And you really have just 4 basic choices: a cream filling, a fruit filling, a custard, or a chiffon. And again, if you've been paying attention, playing along at home, you already know what a chiffon filling is, right? Was that just the insiders? I explained that? Anyway, we'll get to it. A cream filling is really nothing more than flavored pastry cream. So something that can be cooked on the stovetop like a pudding, or simply whipped up, right? Whipped, sweetened, heavy cream could be a cream filling. You could have a fruit filling, and there are 3 types of fruit fillings for pie. A cooked fruit filling is when the fruit kind of isn't juicy enough, so it has to be cooked with some liquid first. Think about it. Apples, relatively dry. Pears, dry. Rhubarb, things like that, very dry. So think of your basic apple pie, right? It's got a nice juicy filling. That's why when you add liquid for a cooked fruit pie, you cook all the fruit, that's why the filling should go in a mealy dough, right? Or a crumb crust, okay? Following along, matching the filling to the crust, this is what I'm bringing to you today. A cooked juice filling is when you have really juicy fruit, like berries, something with a lot of water, especially if you're going to use canned or frozen fruit. And this is best for really delicate fruit that doesn't withstand the heat very well, like strawberries, pineapple, blueberries. Think about this. If you simmer blueberries in a liquid like you did apples or pears, the blueberries would all burst and it would be a mess. So you have a cooked juice process. And the idea is to make a thickened fruit liquid and then quickly poach the berries in it and fill the pie. And again, it's the mealy dough or a crumb crust that you'd want to use with all that juice. A baked fruit pie is really the traditional way where you take your apples, your pears, whatever, you toss them in sugar, seasoning, cinnamon, nutmeg, things like that. You put it in an unbaked shell and you bake them all together. But the tough part of this one is controlling the amount of juice. In the other 2 methods, at least you can control how juicy your pie was. But here, you just have to try and gauge how juicy your apples or pears are. And I know you've seen your apple pie when you mound it with apples, right? And then put the top crust on and the apples all reduce, the fiber breaks down, they release all of their moisture, and you have that head gap, right? The apples start here in your apple pie, but the crust starts here. That's another good example of using the wrong top crust because you've made a crust that stands up. You've made a firmer crust. You've mixed it longer. That's where a flaky crust that is not going to have the structure will lay down on top of those apples. Another good tip. Let's move on. Custard filling. A custard is made with egg yolks as a thickener generally. This is your basic pumpkin pie, one of my favorite pecan pies. You create a flavored custard really, and then you fill the pie shell. And lastly, like I alluded to, just like a chiffon mixing method, the chiffon filling puts many elements together into one. You're adding a fruit puree or a gelatin as an additional thickener along with whipped up egg whites. So this type of pie, fruit puree, easy to say, whipped egg whites, the chiffon filling normally not baked. Right? So a flaky bottom crust, a pre-baked flaky bottom, and then filled with the chiffon filling is usually the way to go. Okay, so here it is. Here's how to make your summer pie baking a really big success this year. First, choose the right type of pie dough. Makes a big, big difference. It's the one thing that I immediately diagnose people's pies with, and it fixes their stuff right away. Next, make sure you're mixing it, right? Flaky or mealy, depending on the size of the fat, it's the same as a biscuit. I mean, a pie dough mixing method is a biscuit mixing method. So if you make really great biscuits, but you don't think you make good pie dough, make the pie dough like the biscuits, or vice versa. It might be. All right, so choose your dough, mix it mealy versus flaky. Match the filling is the next one. Choose the right filling for the dough you created, we've already talked about, and then bake it or chill it. And that's how to pie. That's how we are going to pie this summer. Because, I mean, it's a great time of year to start sharpening up your pie skills. Because, like I said at the beginning, pies travel very well. If you're going somewhere, they're impressive. It's a really nice gift when you're invited to a summer barbecue. Plus, they protect those short season fruits like strawberries and blueberries, things that are here and gone. You can bake some pies, they last even longer. And ultimately, having your own pie repertoire is just another really good skill to add to your toolbox along your journey to become a carefree cook. Before refrigerators, even maybe before window screens that kept all the flies out, Grandma had to store her pies somewhere. Do you know what it is? It's a pie safe. It's a cabinet. Was in everybody's kitchen at some point, usually tin front, holes punched in it for some circulation. You kept your pies in there. It was a pie safe. Whew. That's a lot of pie knowledge today, huh? Do you have a friend that might want a small slice of it? Help their pies a little bit? If you do, please share this video with your friends so they can enjoy the best pies this summer also. Look, learning is great. Sitting behind the desk, listening to the lecture, so to speak, class, that's great. But doing is much better. Because I've seen it happen hundreds, if not thousands of times in my culinary school classes. The student understands the concepts in the classroom, but not until they put it into action do they really understand. So let's do that. Let's me and you do that. Let's put all this baking knowledge that we have been sharing over the past few weeks, let's put it all to use by baking together live on Zoom. It's awesome. If you haven't done one of these, it is so much fun. The next Carefree Cooking Lab is Saturday. This Saturday, May 14th, we're going to bake together live on Zoom. They've all been cooking beforehand, so that's why I can't wait for this class, because it might be the best Learn, Act, Become Zoom event that we've done to date. It's next Saturday, May 14th at noon Eastern Time. We're going to bake 3 items using 3 different mixing methods, 3 different baking methods to create some pro-level baked goods that you can then eat and brag about immediately if you want, with your mouth full, or you can put it in the freezer and have it another day, because everything we do is going to freeze and defrost perfectly. Now, this is a premium level class. It does have a tuition to it, but you're going to end the class having put all the information that I've just shared with you and have been sharing for the last few weeks. You're going to put it into use, and you're going to be able to look down and have evidence of this, evidence of how great your baking became in one afternoon, because you're going to be looking at 3 really great baked goods that you never thought that you could do like that. The 4 previous lab classes, where we learn, act, and became, they've all been huge hits with all the Carefree cooks that have invested their time in that. Last month, Tracy cooked along with us in real time, slowly simmering her chicken cassoulet, and it looks awesome. Oh, and she wrote right there that it tastes awesome too. The idea behind the lab is that we cook together in real time, live on Zoom, so you can raise your hand, ask questions directly of me if you get stuck. It's this Saturday, May 14th. We're going to use the top 3 mixing methods in baking to create 3 treats that you can eat immediately, because if you're like me, you won't be able to help yourself, or freeze it, and again, it's going to defrost really well. This is going to be a really powerful class, about 3 hours of baking together, because once again, you don't have to do exactly what I'm doing. You'll get the handouts and stuff, but you can look at that and decide to do something else. I mean, what you're really going to end the class with is insight into the top 3 mixing methods, so you can go make some scones or make the perfect pie dough. We're going to make Scottish soda bread, but it's the same thing, really. You can make brownies, make blondies, make an endless number of mini loaves if you want. Once you watch how I do my coffee cake muffins with the mile-high streusel topping. Everybody loves chasing the streusel. Oh, there's one. Streusel topping. Last month when we were doing spring suppers, Maureen made the lamb navarin. And this is an important thing for me. This touched my heart because she says she now has a confidence in the braising method, because she used to use a stovetop method. So she's getting more flavor, she's getting more enjoyment, and it didn't come down because I gave her a recipe. There's no recipes. She learned a new way to cook, because it always gets down to the method, right? Like I always say, it's not what you cook, it's how you cook it. And I just love these classes because we get to interact. I know so many of your names. I read your names all the time, but it's really good to hear your voice. And it's good for me to help solve some of your baking challenges right there, immediately, Maybe in one question. That's what I'm going to go for. So go to carefreecookinglab.com/register. See the agenda. Hold your spot. Zoom does limit the number of people I can have in a class. So if you do want to bake along with us, or just watch the class and you'll have access to the replay later when you can do it at your own pace if you want. But I'd go ahead and register now. When you register for the lab also, you do have access to the replay. You'll get all the information as well to cook along if you want. You get all the formulas, the ingredient lists, the needed tools lists, the step-by-step process for each of the 3 mixing methods that we'll be using. And let me remind you, if you're a member of my Carefree Cooks Insider Cooking Club, you've already got a free golden ticket to the event. I'm going to be sending those out just a day or 2 before the class, so we'll be watching for that. Come on, let's mix it up together, everyone. Let's explore the 3 most used mixing methods for all your spring and summer baking. You're going to end the class with some really nice baked goods to eat, share, or freeze. It's the next lab. Learn, act, become class this coming Saturday, May 14th, and I hope I get to welcome you personally then. If not, we'll see you next Tuesday, or if you're an insider, I'll see you tomorrow. I'll be posting that outline later, or next Tuesday when we take a few more steps toward cracking this Carefree Cooks Code.